You're watching the Katrina Merriweather Show, presented by Chick-Fil-A.
Welcome to a new season of the Katrina Merriweather Show. In episode 1, we'll talk to Katrina and her staff about all they've accomplished in the offseason, and we'll hear from a few of the players as well. That's all to come.
I had learned very quickly what it means to be a Memphian.
The Katrina Merriweather Show is presented by Chick-Fil-A. We didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich. And by Simmons Bank, the official sponsor of women's athletics.
Welcome to another season of the Katrina Merriweather Show. I'm Tyler Springs. Today, we talk with Katrina and her staff about what's ahead for the Memphis women's basketball program. Coach Trina and the Tigers open the year at home with Columbia. Lions bringing back their top 10 scorers from last year, and the Tigers will counter with Jamira Shoots. Preseason all-conference pick looking sharp early, mops up the miss with a bucket here, then showed off her range. Shoots goes for 18 points on the night, including this pair on the slashing move to the basket, but Columbia wouldn't go away. The Lions rally within 2 at the half, so it's time for the Tigers to go back to their veterans. That starts with Madison Griggs. Senior shooter hits the 3-ball, showcasing the midi off the left elbow as well. She had 17 with a couple of dimes, including this one where she feeds Lynetta Williams. Tigers led 54-50 through 3 quarters, but it would not be enough. Columbia rallies late, wins 77-69. Tigers fall to 0-1 on the season, and then Memphis gets a 4-day layoff before they go back into competition. They host the MEAC champion Howard Bison. Tigers looking refreshed in this one. Jamira Shoots getting the drop-off from Jada Wright early. The former Haywood High Tomcat staying ready. Off the turnover, she clocks in for a double here off the bounce. Shoots would finish with 18 again, and she got others involved. Maddie Griggs from downtown. Griggs hit 6 triples in total, but watch closely here. Griggs will disappear, and instead it's Micaiah Brooks stepping in her place. It's a career day for the sophomore from Springfield, Missouri. 15 points, all missiles from long range. Brooks and the Tigers with that 3-point attack working, up 25 points on the Bison at the break. And a big helping hand for the Tigers in a runaway win. 6'3" Jada Wright finishes with 9 points and 4 thumping blocks on the Howard Bison. Memphis, in or out, stomps Howard 101-54. It's the first game for the Tigers with 100 points or more since the 2015-2016 season. They level their record at 1-1, and that sets up an important tilt with Miami of Ohio. The Redhawks facing Memphis for the first time ever. The Tigers took it to them. Look at the unparalleled hustle from Amani Jefferson right here. Forces the fumble, recovers, and then laterals it away to safety. That sets up the next possession. Jamira Shoots, down floor, steps into a 3-ball, and drills it from distance. Tigers doing well with Shoots at the helm. She had another dynamic night, 3rd consecutive game with 17 or more points. That's a career-high streak. Destiny Jackson off the bench for a flourish, 11 points on her night. And Madison Griggs would do some work from all over. First from downtown, but it didn't matter where she went. Griggs the team high 18, her 3rd straight game with 17 or more. That's a career high streak. When you're that hot, everything just drops. Madison Griggs, certainly the Tigers' outstanding performer in their 76-51 win over Miami of Ohio. They improved to 2-1 on the young season. We sat down with Katrina Merriweather to get her thoughts on the team's first 3 games. Katrina, you look at your roster coming off of last season where you go 16-12, first year at the head of the program. That's a pretty successful start, but I think when you look at it, surely you see things that you want to go differently. And based on the way last year ended, what did you think you needed for this year?
Well, we lost a lot in the post, first and foremost. When you lose Lanes and Tyler, they ended up starting at the 4 and 5. We knew that there was a big hole to fill there. So we knew we had to go in and get some post players for sure. If we were going to continue with the same system, running some of that dribble drive, we were going to have to get some players that handle the ball as well as could pass off the dribble and make shots on the perimeter. And so we just felt like there were some different skill sets that we needed to bring in just based off of the system that we wanted to run.
When you go to add a coach, what's the process that you go through? Because you lose a very, very good friend in Coach Tennille Adams. It turns out you added somebody with whom you have a very personal relationship. Talk about why that happened the way it did.
Well, first of all, when we got into it and Tennille was going back and forth in this process, I kind of knew it was going to happen. And I knew that it was a great move for Tennille and what she wants to do in becoming a head coach again. So what we needed was someone who's going to coach the post, because Tennille did a lot of that. Someone that I also trusted, because I trusted Tennille a lot. And I think everyone knows that. And there were some pieces that were going to move around a little bit, right? Because I have Ashley and Abby, who have also been with me for a long time. And the option was, do I try to go find another person that's like an associate head coach, right, to replace Tennille? Or do I take a look at what Ashley and Abby have done, you know, with me, for me, with the programs that we've been a part of, and these players, and put them in a position to take a step in their career as well. And that's how I felt. I felt that they had been very loyal, they were hardworking, they're extremely talented. So why not make them both associate head coaches and then hire someone to come in that will coach the post, but also could learn from the two of them as well. So we had some conversations together, you know, and I told them that I was thinking about Brina as well as other people, asked them what their opinion was. But it wasn't easy. You know, Brina and I had to have some conversations. The last thing that I wanted to do was ruin our relationship behind a job. And the last thing I did was talk to my parents about it, because I knew that in the event it didn't work out, my mom literally would have fell to the floor. So yeah, I told her to think about it. And I called Mike Bradbury, who she had been working for in New Mexico, because I wanted to know what type of worker she was. I love her to death, and she's my sister. We've never worked together before. So he had some really positive feedback too. So she sat on it, and then she ultimately decided that she wanted to join us.
What's the outlook on the season like in terms of what your expectations are?
Well, I think that we anticipated having to gel together, right? Anytime you bring in 6 new players, that was going to be a challenge for us. That opens the door for us to have some conversations about what it looks like to be a good person, some character conversations, being a good teammate. And I think that that was one of the things that helped us with that chemistry for sure.
You scheduled aggressively. I think 7 teams, if I'm not mistaken, that won at least 20 games last year on the non-conference slate, and that's before you get to a very tough American. Why'd you do that?
You know, I felt like all the conversations that we had about where this program wanted to go. And I talked to the players, you know, some of these really tough games, I reached out to them in a group message. I'm like, hey, you trying to play South Carolina? You know, and including our newcomers, right? And our freshmen. And they all responded back, yeah, let's do it. You know, and I think that everyone wants to know where they stack up. Everyone wants to know that after you go through all the conditioning and all the workouts and you've invested, you know, where exactly are you and what does that look like? Well, in order to do that, you have to go out and play the best teams that you can that make the most sense, right? And our schedule, to me, is still put together to where there's a little bit of a build-up. There's not one coach that we're going to compete against that I don't respect, that has a lot of knowledge, that does a great job with their programs, and they are all coached differently, but in a way that I felt like could prepare us. So yes, they win, but they also have some really awesome coaches as well.
As you look ahead, what is going to stay important for this team to succeed?
Rebound basketball. Yeah, and I think that our effort has been inconsistent there. We have some natural ability to rebound a ball, size, height, athleticism, but our desire and effort and determination is not the same, you know, every single position in every possession. And I think we've got to get that part to where it's far more consistent than it is right now. I think they want to be good defenders, and so all of that's a process. But what we can have that's unwavering is rebounding. And so that has to remain consistent no matter who we play every single game.
You've heard from the head coach. Now it's time to hear from Katrina's staff and a few of the players as well.
You're watching the Katrina Merriweather Show, presented by Chick-Fil-A.
Welcome back to the Katrina Merriweather Show. Now let's talk to a few of the assistants about what they thought of the offseason and what the Tigers have done up to this point. Now, as cornerstone pieces of this staff, when you look at the team that finished 16-12 in year one, what did you think needed to happen over the summer in the offseason to get better for year two?
Yeah, we're just looking to improve upon just being our best that we can be, working on the fundamentals, the defensive side, and also working on being able to score and just a different offense. We put in some new things, and we're just trying to get better at that every single day.
That first 3-game stretch where you guys lose to Columbia after having a late lead in that contest was followed by bounce-back wins, big one over Howard, and then you guys handled Miami at home as well. How do you think the team played in that 3-game stretch, and especially how do you think they responded to that early loss?
Yeah, I think we've played pretty well. There's been some times where we had some lapses where we have relaxed and we've been taken advantage of on the defensive end, and they've been able to score. But we got back to work after that first loss and came back in the last 2 games and fixed some things and was able to correct well, not all of them, but pretty much a lot of the things that we worked on and that didn't go well in the first game. So we just got back in the lab, worked on defense, making sure that we are trying to take away their strengths, and then just making sure we're pushing the ball offensively and getting the shots that we need to get. We've been moving the ball pretty well, so that's been a good thing for us, and we've been getting a lot of assists on the baskets that we've been making, so that's been pretty good for us.
I think we laid a really good foundation in year 1. The goal was to come in and be the best team that we could possibly be. And bringing in new additions was a big thing of getting people that were on the same page, that wanted to win, that wanted to do what it took to win. I think we just started that from day 1, and it goes from Trina's lead of setting the tone and going after goals that we've set from day 1 and not backing up or away from them just because they're bigger.
What did you like about all the additions that are coming in this year to the Tigers?
You add Destiny and Jada, and being a part of the team that we had at Wright State that played in the NCAA tournament and won a game, that experience is huge, right? Like, they've played at the highest level possible. But they want to win and they want to help. And we know what to expect from them every single day, and that's huge. That's a comfort level to us, but also to the team around them. You bring in the freshmen who, again, they all came from winning programs that have all won championships. So that was a huge thing for us. And whoever we bring into the program has to know what it feels like to cut down nets or have confetti fall on them, whether they're a college conference champion or a high school city champion, state champion, whatever it may be. That's huge. So them coming in, they wanted those goals as well. They set them for themselves individually and for the team. And I think from day 1 that they've come in and really been special to this group to add.
What made you say yes when your sister called you up and said, I have a coaching spot open and I think you might be right for it?
I think what made me say yes was ultimately the dream of coaching with her. We're 13 years apart, and when she started coaching, I wasn't sure that I wanted to. I feel like it's a family trait at this point. I coach to enhance the experience, and I know that my sister and her staff, wherever she's been, have been enhancing the experience of collegiate athletes. So that's what made me say yes, ultimately. Being able to be at a place where kids are being taken care of, and loved on and respected, and so that's what did it.
What are the goals and the hopes for this team?
That we can grow and get better at every position. I know we're not afraid. I know that our boss is not afraid, so there's no reason for us to be worried about any game coming up. But we have a bunch of talks in the office about comparing the way we finish games, the way we finish practice. And we're very open and honest with our players about that too. We just have to be better in practice. We have to be better the entire time so that we're better the entire game.
The staff is out, the players are in. Let's get some thoughts from some Memphis Tigers players. What about the way you were playing and handling your business over the summer did you feel like spoke to just your mindset and the way you want to approach this year?
It was just like I just only had to play basketball. In the past, I had to do other things, like I had to force shots or just do this. But now I just know, like, my teammate have my back. Like, I don't have to come out and put up 20, 25 shots, attempts a game. Like, I can just be me and just play.
Against Columbia in the opener, you guys lost a tough one. You guys had a lead late in that contest, but you guys bounced back with the wins against Howard and against Miami of Ohio early on. How do you think the team handled those first 3 games?
The loss to Columbia, it stung. It stung a lot, but I think it was needed, and we were able to grow from that to know, like, what the do's and the don'ts and when to do something and when not to do it. So I feel like we're coming together good, we're gelling good, and this year I think we're going to be really good.
You and Maddie Griggs in particular scoring the basketball really, really well right now. Any particular reason for that, or just you feel like your focus, you're where you need to be?
I mean, the coaches trust us. We put in a lot of work, so that comes with confidence. So just knowing that we're able to, like, go out and do the stuff that we worked on, it pays off.
What are your goals, and what do you think the team's goals are for this season?
Our goals is really, we take one game at a time. Every game is literally just a game. We're playing against different people. So we just trust ourselves and trust what we can do, and we'll be fine.
When you add pieces like Destiny Jackson and Jada Wright to the roster, right? You play with these kids at Wright State, you know a little bit about them. What can you tell somebody who's never seen a lot of those kids before? What are they going to bring this year?
A lot of intensity and urgency on the defensive end. Know how to win, come in, communicating, having each other's back. I feel like my energy is a good impact. Like when I'm energized bunny, it just transfers over to them.
Looking ahead, you guys have a tough end of the non-conference schedule too. What are the goals for that, but also just the goals overall for the season for this team?
To win and grow as a team, continue to communicate, and to get better and be consistent.
Coming into this year, what was your mindset with this team?
Bounce back, get everything that we've been fighting for the whole summer, and take those L's and turn them into W's this year, easy W's, and just keep fighting, just get our bounce back and go as far as we can this year.
For you personally, what has that meant in terms of either changing what you're doing or improving what you're doing?
Improving it, adding to it, doing what I can do best at every moment, and improving on what I can do best. So getting in the gym and getting up extra shots, even if I might be the best shooter in Memphis, I can still get up some extra shots. I can always get better at that. So it's just perfecting my craft at every moment and every day and every practice. So yeah, that's it, just perfecting my craft over the summer, keeping my body healthy, and just, preparing for this year. And it's just discipline, waking up knowing that you have to do, seeing that vision 2 years, 3 years later that nobody else sees but that you see.
Coming up next, we'll take a look at the schedule ahead for the Memphis Tigers and all that awaits in non-conference play.
You're watching the Katrina Merriweather Show, presented by Chick-Fil-A. Let's take a look at the AutoZone road ahead.
You start December with 4 non-conference games, beginning on the road at the defending national champions in South Carolina. And you'll see 2 other teams that have won 20 games in the last year. When you schedule aggressively like this, what do you expect from your team?
Well, we got to compete, and we have to put ourselves in positions where we have to make plays, and we have to have good clock management. We have to take care of the ball. We talk a lot about margin of error. And sometimes when you play people who are either rebuilding or maybe have a lot of new players and you know that they're in a space, you may have the ability to make more mistakes, right? And still come out on top at the end. And then you play teams like South Carolina, and you play teams like Indiana, St. John's, Middle Tennessee. Well, you can't just throw the ball all over the place then either. And we have to move the ball around, and you can't just score off one pass, And I think that that's what we expect. We expect our team to grow in those areas and be able to play and compete against anyone.
That was tonight's AutoZone Road Ahead. AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination and official sponsor of Tiger Athletics. Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Boy, that South Carolina game ought to be a dogfight. We'll wrap the show when we come back.
You're watching the Katrina Merriweather Show, presented by Chick-Fil-A.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next month and talk more about Memphis Tigers women's basketball on the Katrina Merriweather Show when we return in December.
The game is on.
The Katrina Merriweather Show is presented by Chick-Fil-A. We didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich. And by Simmons Bank, the official sponsor of women's athletics. This copyrighted telecast is an exclusive presentation of Learfield under the broadcasting rights granted by the University of Memphis. Reuse of this presentation is prohibited without the expressed written consent of the University of Memphis and Learfield.